Good morning, and thanks for joining us on The Real Story. I'm Emma Wulfhorst. We've seen a lot of back and forth about immigration over the past 2 months. Right now, there's a legal battle against President Trump's attempt to dismantle birthright citizenship, and agencies are warning to expect more ICE sightings. But here in Connecticut, two competing proposals in the state legislature to both expand or shrink the protections in the state's Trust Act. Here with me now to break it all down, campaign manager for Trust Act Now, Juan Fonseca Tapia. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, Juan, tell me first, what is the Trust Act Now campaign? How long have you been a part of this, and how did you get involved with it?
So the coalition came together probably within the past 2 months.
Oh, wow.
We have been working really hard. There were different organizations having meetings for a while now because we knew that this was going to be an issue.
Yeah.
But the work on the ground started probably around 6 weeks ago. And again, I took the role as the campaign manager. And now we are here. Yeah.
So it's been a quick turnaround.
It has been.
So tell me first off, what is Connecticut's Trust Act currently? What protections does it allow for people right now as it stands? We know it was passed back in 2013, updated in 2019. So what does it look like right now?
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I do want to name briefly is the name of the law, right? Trust Act. Part of the reason why it was first passed in 2013 was because of the ICE raids that were happening in cities like Danbury, in New Haven, in West Haven. We have the Danbury 11 that became a federal court case, right? So in 2019, once it was revised, one of the things that they added was to ensure that police departments were not sharing information with ICE agents unless they fell under the exceptions for people that had committed serious crimes. The only way that police departments can share information with immigration enforcement is if they have warrants signed by a judge.
Right, fall under those specific exceptions. So immigration civil rights advocates, state lawmakers, and residents were rallying in Hartford this past week before the Judiciary Committee's public hearing on HB 7212, which is a bill to amend the Trust Act. This would strengthen those protections under the Trust Act. So walk me through what this legislation would do. What would it update or change in the Trust Act?
So the rally that we had was to launch the campaign.
Yeah.
And the launch of the campaign was the beginning of us starting to work with legislators to work on this piece of legislation that was put forward in front of the committee. But one of the things that we support that piece of legislation. We think that it definitely expands the current protections that we have right now, especially when it comes to data protection, which we know that is an issue. We have drivers-only licenses, right? So the state has access to sensitive information of undocumented people in the state and also people from mixed family status.
Right.
We think that the bill can be made a lot stronger. We need additional protections. So our coalition, it's now of more than 31 partners, has been working really hard with the YRAC clinic out of Yale and the ACLU legal team to draft proposed amendments that we are asking the committee to consider. Those recommendations are based on what we are seeing in the community, what we're hearing from immigrants, and what we think that are proactive measures that the state can take to ensure that we stop the federal overreach.
Can you tell me what some of those things are that you're hearing and seeing from immigrants in the community?
Yeah. So I live in Denver. I'm an immigrant myself from mixed family status. I came from Mexico, and one of the things that I can tell you is that I've received a lot of phone calls from people telling me that they are seeing ICE agents. We know that we have had a lot of ICE activity in Danbury, and people have been literally picked up in the street. that is creating a lot of fear. I have had conversations with educators, with mental health providers, with doctors, who have seen this before, right? And are concerned. And when it comes to especially education, I know that the days that after we have had presence in Danbury, there has been a high absentee rate in the schools, right? So one of the things that we are doing to strengthen the proposed bill is to include a legal mechanism to ensure that the Trust Act is enforced. Right now, as it is, it's actually a good bill, right? And we have had conversations with people that worked very hard in 2019 to get it through, and one of the things that they have shared is the one thing that we didn't get through was to ensure that we added and we codified a mechanism to ensure that the Trust Act was being followed.
Right.
And so that is one of the things that we're doing. The different amendments that we have presented to the committee have a multi-layer approach to the issue. One of the things that we also think that would be complementary to the legal mechanism is the creation of a public oversight board, right?
Okay.
We know that when there is transparency, that is the only way that we can actually know if any laws are being violated or the laws are being respected and followed. So the creation of a public oversight board, in addition to a public hotline to report any kind of violations, would allow us legislators and the state to monitor that data and to figure out ways, right, to ensure that, as I said, advocates are like ourselves, legislators can take proactive measures to take action if things need to be corrected in the future. And
you've officially launched this campaign now, as you were saying, for the bill, and as well as working with, those at Yale and the lawmakers on the committee to introduce some of these amendments. What have those conversations looked like so far with legislators on the Judiciary Committee? Have they been receptive to these ideas? Are you seeing a lot of support from lawmakers?
Yeah, many of the legislators that we are talking to have told us, yes, all of this makes a lot of sense. And all of them share the same feeling that we have, which is we know that things are going to get worse. And so what can we do to ensure that the federal overreach, right? Like we do everything that we can do to protect ourselves as a state from the federal government to overreach and try to tell us and dictate how we're using our state and local resources, right? When we know that those resources could be used in education and expanding access to healthcare, mental health care, like the needs that our people have in the state. So the legislators have definitely been very supportive of this. As you know, during the public hearing, Senator Gary Winfield, who is our champion, said yes, all of this makes sense. We have been having meetings with legislators. As I said, we have been doing a lot of work over the past few weeks, and many of them say, yeah, like this makes sense. Especially many of those conversations we have had YRAC law students who can answer some of the legal questions or technicality around the language, right? That we as organizers or advocates don't fully understand. But when we are having these conversations and explaining how all of these can actually be implemented, right? And that other states have done it. They say, yes, all of these things make sense and we should be proactive.
We do know there's a competing bill in the Judiciary Committee this session from Republican lawmakers to expand the exceptions in the Trust Act to include Class C felonies and domestic violence crimes, and their proposed bill would allow law enforcement to detain immigrants who were charged with one of those crimes with probable cause rather than requiring a conviction, which the current Trust Act law includes. What's been your response to that measure or reaction to this proposed bill?
Based on the conversations that we're having with legislators, based on the conversations that we are having with immigrants and people in the community, we know that it's a bill that it would bring us back instead of going forward, right? And we know that our communities are under attack, right? And we know that this issue is directly connected to the issues that LGBTQIA people face, right? Like women's rights, right? Like all of these issues are interconnected, right? So we all think that the approach and the work that we need to do has to be grounded on a vision, a human vision for the future, right? That ensures that we are all taking collective action to protect our communities, to ensure that we are continuing the progress that the state has had for many years. I think that if we consider any legislation that wouldn't do that, right, would undermine and erase the inclusivity and the legacy of progress that the state has worked so hard for.
In our last minute here, how confident do you feel about the bill that you're supporting, 7212, passing this session? You know, I know this work has been only in the past couple weeks, but you know, we're well into the session now. So how are you feeling about this passing through this year?
Well, I think that we already saw this in 2019, right? Like, and people like already experienced it and lived it, and so the importance of ensuring that we're doing everything that we can to ensure that everyone in our community feels safe and that they can trust police departments, right? Like they can feel safe going to a hospital. We're talking about immigrants, right? But at the end of the day, as I said, this not protecting and not having trust within our communities has ripple effects that affects public health, right? And you might not be an immigrant, but it does affect you indirectly, right? So we think that like legislators, our governor, the attorney general, and people in the community are saying we are choosing love over hate, and we are choosing courage over fear, and we are going to take collective action to ensure that the bill gets through.
Well, Juan, thank you so much. We'll be following this bill throughout the rest of the session, but we really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. We still have more to get to here, though, on The Real Story. With the threat of tens of thousands of job cuts for the Department of Veterans Affairs and a slew of new policies and bans for the U.S. military as a whole, we're taking a look at some of the possible impacts for Connecticut's veterans. Stay with us.